United Kingdom, UK has reduced its military aid to Israel, an action the country said it took to prevent international human violation. The UK Foreign Secretary, David Lammy, made this known on Monday. There have been massive protests in Israel, especially since on Sunday, as thousands of the Israelis also held a nationwide strike to demand a Gaza ceasefire on Monday, hours after hundreds of thousands of people gathered in some of the biggest protests since the Gaza war began. United States of America, USA President Joe Biden, also on Monday said that he thinks the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is not doing enough to secure the release of the hostages still in the captivity of the Palestinian fighters, Hamas. When asked if he thought PM Netanyahu had done enough to secure a hostage deal between Israel and Hamas, President Biden answered, no. Biden made the remark to reporters after the weekend, during which the bodies of 6 hostages executed by Hamas were found in a Gaza tunnel. Among those discovered was the body of 23-year-old American Israeli Hash Goldberg Polin, whose parents had publicly pleaded for the return of their son. The pair had brought their personal appeal to the Democratic National Convention, where they were received with a standing ovation. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, in a nationwide broadcast on Monday, said the 6 hostages were deliberately killed by Hamas to get concession. Benjamin Netanyahu said he has always made a deal for ceasefire, but Hamas always refused to accept the demands, saying they are deliberately killing hostages to get concession. Benjamin Netanyahu, while also reacting to the mass protests by Israelis over the killing of the hostages and called for him to enter a ceasefire deal with the Hamas, said the pressure should be mounted on Hamas and not Israel, adding, Israel will not bow to pressure. UK Foreign Secretary Lammy, while speaking on Monday, said the decision to suspend 30 licenses of arms sales to Israel comes following a review of export licenses for UK arms, which found there was a clear risk that the weapons would be used in a way that could breach international law. Around 30 of 350 licenses will be suspended, Lammy said. The move marks a shift for the United Kingdom and came as part of the new Labour government's review of Israel's compliance with international humanitarian law amid its war in Gaza. Lammy said the government had a legal duty to do the review. The suspended arms export licenses, about 30 out of around 350, include sales of components for military aircraft, including fighter aircraft, helicopters and drones. The arms also include items believed to be used for ground targeting, Lammy said. The assessment I have received leaves me unable to conclude anything other than that for certain UK arms exports to Israel, there does exist a clear risk that they might be used to commit or facilitate a serious violation of international humanitarian law, Lammy said. Israeli Foreign Minister Israel Katz said Britain's decision sends a very problematic message to Hamas and its sponsors in Iran, while Israel's Minister of Defense Yoav Gallant said he was deeply disheartened by Britain's announcement. Lammy stressed that the suspension was not a blanket ban or an arms embargo, and that the British government has not and could not arbitrate on whether or not Israel has breached international humanitarian law. This is a forward-looking evaluation, not a determination of innocence or guilt, and it does not prejudge any future determinations by the competent courts, he said. It will be recalled that the war started when Hamas attacked Israel on October 7, 2023, killing about 1,200 people and taking more than 250 hostage. Thereafter, Israel launched military campaign in Gaza that has killed more than 40,000 people, according to the Gaza Health Ministry, which does not distinguish between civilians and combatants but says the majority killed are women and children. Britain has faced mounting pressure in recent months to suspend arms sales to Israel, with protesters gathering in the streets outside government buildings to call for an end to arms transfers. Britain's former Foreign Secretary David Cameron said in April that arms sales to Israel would not be suspended. Lally said an immediate review of British arms export licensing to Israel was initiated when the Labour Party came to power in July. Britain is not a major supplier of arms to Israel and says its arms exports represent 0.02% of Israel's overall military imports. The United States and Germany supply the vast majority of Israel's imported arms. The Biden administration has continued to provide arms to Israel, despite concerns among U.S. officials and lawmakers about Israel's military tactics. Last month, the Biden administration approved about $20 billion in new weapons sales to Israel over the next several years.
It's this government's legal duty to review export licenses. Criteria 2C of the Strategic Export Licensing Criteria states that the government will not issue export licenses if there is a clear risk that the items might be used to commit or facilitate serious violations of international humanitarian law. It is with regret that I inform the House today the assessment I have received leaves me unable to conclude anything other than that for certain UK arms exports to Israel, there does exist a clear risk that might be used to commit or facilitate a serious violation of international humanitarian law. I have informed my right honourable friend, the Business and Trade Secretary, and he is therefore today announcing the suspension of around 30 from a total of approximately 350 to Israel as required under the Export Controls Act. These include equipment that we assess is for use in the current conflict in Gaza, such as important components which go into military aircraft, including fighter aircraft, helicopters and drones, as well as items which facilitate ground targeting. And for transparency, this government is publishing a summary of our assessment.
Are you planning to present a final hostage deal for both sides this week?
We're very close to that.
What makes you think that this deal will be successful in a way that the other deals were not?
Hope springs eternal.
Mr. President, do you think it's time for Prime Minister Netanyahu to do more on this issue? Do you think he's doing enough?
No.
I was asked whether what effect that will actually make on
Israel is not, I'm not doing
to
enough
continue the bombardment of Gaza
to the release of
or will it
hostages.
continue unabated?
Well,
and will he also explain
I want to set the record straight.
legally or otherwise,
On April 27th, Secretary of State Blinken said that Israel made an extraordinarily generous offer
as a staging point
for a hostage deal.
Israel, which many people
On May
believe are
31st,
carrying weapons that are used
Israel
to bomb
agreed to a U.S.-backed proposal. Hamas refused. On August 16th, Israel agreed to what the United States defined as a final bridging proposal. Hamas refused again. On August 19th, Secretary Blinken said, Israel accepted the U.S. proposal. Now Hamas must do the same. On August 28th, that's 5 days ago, Deputy CIA Director said that Israel shows seriousness in the negotiations. Now Hamas must show the same seriousness.
In relation to that.
I want to ask you something.
I am very comfortable.
What has changed in the last 5 days? What has changed?
Israel, and I won't comment
One thing.
on operational issues. As
These murderers executed 6 of our hostages. They shot them in the back of the head. That's what's changed.
That the world has condemned
And now after this,
illegal occupation of the West Bank, the settlement policy,
we're asked to show
and the killing of
seriousness?
40,000 people in Gaza.
We're asked to make
The
concessions?
suspension of some arms
What
contracts.
message does this send
Could he
Hamas?
explain what
It
effect
says,
that will
kill
actually
more
make on
hostages,
Israel's
murder more
ability
hostages, you'll get
to
more
continue
concessions.
the bombardment of Gaza, or will it
The
continue
pressure internationally
unabated?
must be
And will he
directed at
also
these
explain
killers,
what role,
at Hamas,
legally or otherwise,
not at Israel.
Britain has played in
We say yes, they
overflying
say no all the
Gaza
time,
with
but they
surveillance
also
aircraft
murdered these people.
the use
And
of
now
RAF
we need
artillery
maximum
as a
pressure on
staging
Hamas.
point for
I don't
aircraft
believe
going to
that either
Israel,
President
which many
Biden
people
or
believe
anyone
are carrying weapons
serious
that are used to
about
bomb Gaza.
achieving peace and achieving the release would seriously ask Israel
I know that the
to make these concessions. We've already made them.
is informed
Hamas has to make the concession.
of these.
Thank you very much. תודה רבה לכם.
OsazuwaAkonedo, bringing you the news in a more digital way.